and I'm joined by the director and the filmer of that show, Oisin Moran. You're very welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Breifne. Thanks for having me on.
No, it's my pleasure to have you. Listen, I watched that last week when I saw it pop up on social media, as have thousands of other people. Tell us a little bit about Shine, a Sligo Rovers documentary.
Well, the project that started off, I got a copy of the Heritage Society to the Coffee Table book a couple of years ago. And it kind of goes season by season through Sligo Rovers and through the history of the club and a couple of stories through it. And it got me thinking about doing something about that with the Heritage community, Heritage Club, for the club. And I met Michael, who's a relation of mine, at a family wedding. And I got talking to him, and we sat down and we chatted for a bit, and we decided we'd work something out and go for it. And it kind of grew from there. Michael opened some doors for me that people I wouldn't have known, like Joe Martin, for example. And it's important to kind of just say that a lot of this was shot pre-COVID. Like, Joe is older, he's in his mid-90s. We wouldn't have approached him in the current situation to do this. But we filmed him in October 2019, a couple of weeks after the wedding, and we chatted and we kind of went from there. The club had their night, the outdoor museum, the launch of the outdoor museum, and Billy Sinclair was there. So to kind of not start from there, but it kind of grew into that. We talked to Billy that night, got some nice footage of Billy meeting Fago. We got people looking at the outdoor museum for the first time, and that outdoor museum in itself, like, I've been to a number of League of Ireland grounds like yourself, like a lot of them through the country, and there's nothing I've seen that even slightly resembles that. Like, that outdoor museum is brilliant. That Heritage Society book is brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose we actually bumped into each other the night you were filming at that Shamrock Rovers game, which was the last game that was played before COVID in the league. And I suppose you were very lucky to get all of that in pre the shutdown. Yeah,
like, I was asked before, was it a COVID project? You know, is this something you did to keep yourself occupied? And no, it genuinely wasn't. As you can see yourself, that we started this pre-COVID, and in retrospect, we were very lucky. Like, there's elements that had to be left out. Like, I wanted to get some of the Dublin Supporters Club in Dublin. Like, I live in Dublin. Well, I live in Galway, but I'm kind of work in Dublin, so I'm kind of commuting. And it was important for me to show people from outside Sligo supporting the club, because I think the Dublin Supporters Club, and kind of not expats, but people that are outside of Sligo, how important the club is to them. Like, it's very important to me. And I don't live in Sligo. I haven't lived in Sligo since the early 2000s. Like,
well, let's talk about that, because what's the motivation for making this documentary? Obviously, that's what you do, but why Sligo Rovers? If you're not in the area in the last 2 decades, what keeps drawing you back?
It's the club. Like, I have a great attachment to the club. Like, when I go up to Sligo maybe once every 2 months or so, I try to kind of time my going up to when there's a match on. So I go to a match with my dad. My dad goes to games every second week for the last, I don't know, 50 years, probably longer. And I that's my kind of attachment. That's my, like, as Dermot Kelly says in the book, like, he never followed any English teams. Now, I do follow an English team, but not to the same extent. Like, I like following League of Ireland. I like following Rovers. I do watch the Premier League. I watch the Champions League. I watch all that. But my heart is Sligo Rovers. Like, everything else is just a little bit of gloss. Like.
And of course, the documentary, everyone, I suppose people watching this interview or who are currently following the League of Ireland know Sligo Rovers as maybe that FAI Cup specialists from 8 to 10 years ago. They won the league in 2012. There's names. Alan, who's presenting this show, is one of the names and the heroes of the current crop of Sligo Rovers. But this documentary doesn't really deal with that at all. It kind of spans those two periods from the early days, but predominantly from that Billy Sinclair-led team, as you mentioned, in 77, right through to the floodlights coming on in the Willie McStay era in the early 90s. And it's a really nice deep dive into one of the, I suppose, the the major players in the League of Ireland, and it's a really, really nice piece of work. Tell us about one aspect of it that I really, really liked, and that is the music, because it's so almost haunting the whole way through it, but it just kind of plays that really nice narrative the whole way underneath, and it really adds to the experience of watching it for maybe 35 minutes.
Yeah, there's two questions there. Like we did end up concentrating on that period between Billy Sinclair and Willie McStay, and we didn't really set out with a plan, but we kind of, that's where the story kind of ended up when we sat down and I started editing through it. That's where we kind of found the story was Fago. Now the music when we were sitting down editing was vital. It was brilliant. There's a friend of mine that I've known since St. John's who did all the music, Pierce McLaughlin, and he has a couple of different groups of musicians that he plays with, and his music is very atmospheric. There's a lot going on in it, and it leads to a real atmosphere of it. Like it just kind of hooks you in. And he gave us all his files or all his songs, and basically just said, "Look, I trust you to go do something nice with it. Go use it." Like there was no issue there. There was no issue there with how we went about using it. He knew we'd do a job that we were interested in doing, and doing something really nice. Like it really added. I feel it really added to the piece. You can see it in the trailer. Like if you change the music in that trailer, that trailer doesn't make a lot of sense. If you just put in, generic beats, or you just put in something, it doesn't. It's that really kind of haunting sound, as you said yourself. Like, but his music goes throughout it, through interviews, everything, and I think it really just hooks the whole thing together. Now, Pierce grew up by the showgrounds as well, near enough.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And another lovely character in the documentary almost is actually the town itself and the region. And Ben Bulben comes in, that lovely view, as anyone who's ever been on the water bus from Dromahare down to Sligo will know it well. That view as you come down the Garavogue with Ben Bulben open up. There's a lovely drone shot of that. But the cinematography in it is fantastic. There's been a lot of work, I suppose, recently. I'm looking, thinking maybe if Amazon Prime have done a lot of work on the All or Nothing series. They've been with Spurs, they've been with Tottenham, they've been with Man City, they've been with a couple of NFL sides in the States. Would you be interested in that kind of thing? Is that something that could work in a League of Ireland context?
I basically, it's a question of resources. Like I was doing this part-time, finding equipment to go do it. If you were to commit to doing one entire season with one club, you're basically living with them, showing off everything. To do to that standard, like the resources required for that are fairly high on, fairly full on. Like I know, and I can't say, but I know of one League of Ireland club that there's research going into a possibility of doing something similar. But you're talking, you need big money to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, because you're basically going to put one or two individuals into the team, embed them into the squad for a full season, 7 or 8 months, 9 months, or whatever it might be. And there's a lovely mix to the documentary. There's a lovely feel. It includes the underage players, male and female, includes the local media, some former players, officials, and even some of the fans. And I think for me, getting in to see Anthony Kilfeather's collection was just a little bit special. What was your favorite moment in the film?
Well, I'll deal with Anthony's first. Like Michael opened the doors to going into Anthony's house, and when you go into Anthony's upstairs, he has a good sized room devoted to Sligo Rovers stuff. You go into it, and as going in there as a Sligo Rovers fan, or even going in there as a League of Ireland fan, it's like going into a personal museum. He has bits of everything. Like there's medals, there's cups, there's trophies, there's programs, there's scarves, everything. And you're just wandering around in it. And he's going, "Oh, this is Seamus Coleman's jersey. This is a league winner's medal. This is a cup winner's medal. This is the cup winner's medal that was spelt wrong." He has everything. People just hand him stuff and go, "We trust you to take care of it. We know that it'll be in a good home." And someday, I know it's one of the hopes of the Heritage Society, is to eventually have a safe, secure space in town or in the showgrounds or wherever, that they can show this place off to the public and have a museum for the club. The memorabilia is already there. I think their big concern is having somewhere safe and secure.
Yeah, I think, and this masterpiece, to be quite honest with you, it's one of the best things I've seen in the League of Ireland in the last 20 odd years. And kudos to you and to Michael for pulling that all together. It's great to kind of to see it all. And it's worth watching. Even if you're not a Sligo Rovers fan, it is definitely worth having a look. Oisin, thank you so much for joining us. Can you let people know where they can find the interview? Obviously, of course, we'll put a link to it in the description notes here and on our website, but where can people look it up and see it for themselves?
Well, it's on YouTube, and all they have to do is search Shine, a Sligo Rovers documentary. It should pop up. It has 6,800 views as of before this interview, so it's going well. It's there, it's available, and the reason we put it on YouTube is to give people access without any restrictions.
Excellent. So it's free as well. Nobody even has to pay to watch it. So how did you fund it?
What's that?
How did you fund it?
My own back pocket.
And you're just giving it away. Amazing.
No, well, the idea that I had initially was to put it into a film festival, and that's why I wanted to shoot it as best I could, put in the effort with the lenses and the cameras and the way we went about it. And the more I kind of looked into it, there's a lot of restrictions with film festivals. They want to be the one that shows it first, etc. And there's an element of kind of exclusivity about it, but the club isn't like that. The club is open to everybody. People can come along. There's no problem. So I was more comfortable with putting it on YouTube and just giving it to people and letting them have the access to go do it.
Listen, Oisin, thank you very much for joining us, and the very best of luck with the documentary. Can't wait to see what happens next.
Thanks very much, Breifne. Cheers.